So from the last part, you remember that we made a variable named David's depth. So I want to show you that we can actually modify this name into different ways, different forms. You can get a lot of things out of this name. So to do that, I'm just going to do a simple print statement, and I'm going to just say name dot, and over here you can see all the functions that you are able to carry out with this name variable. So you can do name dot upper, and if you run this, you just change it to uppercase, as you can see David's dev. And you can say the name dot the lower, you just change it to lowercase. There are a lot of things we can do here, but we're only going to be doing just a few. So you can do name dot replace, and over here you're going to pass in the old string you want to replace. In my case, what if I don't want to I want to remove dev, and I'll just say that's the old string I want to replace. Then I want to replace that with Python. So I can say Davis Python, and if we run this, you can see Davis Python. There are also a lot of things you can do here. I just recommend you just go through them and see what you need, but there are actually some that are really complicated and really annoying. But anyways, you can have like the ends with, and we're just going to try it out. And the ends with is going to tell you, it's going to ask you, as you can see here, for a suffix. So the suffix is what comes at the end. I can say that ends with dev, and if I run this, it will probably give me a false. Yeah, and the false is because it's not a capital D. So if I change this to a small d, so I want to check, you see that it actually ends with dev, which is a true. You can do all sorts of things with this. With more practice, you'll be able to know and get conversant with them. Also, another one I want to show you is lower, and if you run it, you can see a false because all the characters here are not in the lowercase. I can also say name equals to name the upper, and here I can just say is upper, and it's going to show me that yes, all the characters there are upper. If you remove this, it's going to show you a false because not all the characters are in uppercase. There are many things you can do with strings, a lot, like a boatload. Even I don't know everything you can do with strings, but just to get your hand around the basics and just know what to do when you need to. Also, I'm sorry, there's something I didn't mention earlier. If you have a string here and the number is 124 or any number inside the string, it is still a string. I want to emphasize on that. So as long as it has quotation marks around it, it is still a string. So now if we print name, if we print type of name, and if we run this, you're going to see it's going to give a string because it is still a string. But if I change this, you'll see it to give an int, which is integer. So if we have some kind of int like this, for example, we tell the user to input probably his age, and the person will probably input it in integer form, and we want to also change it to a string after that. What we can do is we can just say str name, and this is just going to change it to a name, a string. But if you run this, you're going to still get the type int, because over here we're not doing anything with this value. We just say okay, change it to a string, but it's not like we're doing anything important. So before that, we have to reassign the name to that string. So now this is going to overwrite this first one, which is saying okay, we have a new name variable and store this value inside, and this value is the string version of this 124. So it's just basically going to store it as a string. If you run this, you can see class str. You can do the same thing with int. You can change a string to int, but I'll teach that in the int section. Anyways, there are other things you can do. I'm just going to go back to Davis dev here. So instead of printing the type, I just want to show you something called indexing. In programming in general, there's something called indexing, and in Python, each string has its index. So the numbering starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until the end of the string. So in my case, there are 10 characters here. So we have 0 to 9. If you have another one, that will be the 10th character. So each position signifies each character in the string. For example, if I want to get the first character, that's 0. Make sure it starts from 0. I want you to understand that indexing starts from 0 everywhere and anywhere. Indexing starts from 0. So the first character is D, which is an index of 0. So if you want to get this, what you're going to do is put square brackets around it and just put in the index in there. So I'm just going to comment this out for now so that Python won't give me an error. But if I run this, you can see that I'm printing D because that is what is in the 0th index. So if I want like the third character here, V, which is on index 2, I'm just going to say 2 here and you run it. You can see V. Also, just for a flex, I can just say name equals to name dot upper. If I try to get it now, you can see it's going to give me a capital V. basically you can just play around with all this stuff. So also I want to say every space also has its index. So this index is this space's index is 6. So if I put in 6 there, you see that it just outputs a blank space. Yeah, there's nothing there actually, because the space also has its index. So I want to say, if you want to like get a group of characters, just not just one character, like if you want to get something like the whole Davis or the whole Dev, you're going to grab the indexes from this index number. For example, you want to get the whole Davis, you're going to grab it from this index number. So after that number, let me just give you an example here. So if we want from D to S, we do 0 colon 6. And I know you're saying no, we're meant to stop at 5 because that's where the S is, but Python actually ignores that last character. So now it's going to grab from from the 0th index to the 5th index, ignoring the 6th one. So if we run this, we're going to see that it prints out the whole Davis. If you doubting, you can just go ahead and try out 5, but I'm not going to try it out in this tutorial. So let's just say we want to get from 0 to 6, from D to S. We can do this, right? Also, you can do it without the 0. So you just put a colon and 6. So the 0 doesn't really matter, basically. As you can see, it outputs it really nicely. Also, for example, if you want to get like from E to the end, E is what I think is 4 here. So I'm going to do a 4 to a -1. And this is going to get from E to E. So it's going to ignore -1, which is V. I'm going to talk about negative indexing soon, but just keep this in your mind. I'm just going to do 4 colon, and we run this, you're going to see it's going to get E to the end. I know you're meant to say, why don't we do a colon to 0? But if you look at it, 0 is actually D. And so we can't go forward and backward at the same time. It doesn't even make sense. So I want to talk about something else called negative indexing. So now this part is quite going to get confusing. So I'm going to do a presentation about it. So hopefully you all understand normal indexing. So now this is just an example of a normal index, and this is an example of a negative index. So the end of the string starts with a -1 and keeps going backward and backward until the last digit is minus infinity. I don't know. So in this case, V is a -1. So if you want to get that, if you want to get V in those square brackets, we're going to put a -1 there. So for a quick example, I'm just going to show you. For example, we want to get from a -8 to a -2. So we want to get from V all over to D. Remember, Python ignores the last one you want to get. So we're going to print V to D. So what we'll do is, first of all, arrange your print statement, print name, square brackets, and inside them, you're going to put -8 to -2. I want you to make sure you don't mix this up, because most of the time your brain will be thinking the other way, for it to be a -2 before a -8. For you to actually be consistent with this, I will tell you that the first index should always be smaller than the second index. So in this case, -8 is smaller than -2. So let's go over the rules again. So for negative indexing, you just number it -1 to -infinity. Then if you want to select any given range of characters, you always select the first one starting with the lower number, in this case -8, to the higher number, which is -2. And make sure that you remember that it ignores this last number, which means it will stop here. This same example I'm going to show you in code right now. So we're back here. I'm just going to get rid of this real quick and get rid of this. So from what I remember, we had a -8 to a -2. So if we run this now, you'll see it gives us VIES till a -2, which is D. And actually E is the -2, but it ignores that. So all our rules are met really nicely. And I hope you really understand these parts, because most of the examinations and all those things always have these questions in them. So I hope you enjoyed this section. Let's go back to it.